Hello, hello, hello. So I wanted to come on here really quickly to talk about Annaliese because this is something that I spoke about before in my finale video, and I just felt strongly that it could be talked about again because so many people, so many women in particular as well, do experience this all the time where they're really liking someone and hoping something can happen in a relationship just to put their all into that relationship just for the other participant, you know, like the male in this case, to pretty much close the door on that relationship and do so in a ugly fashion. So I wanted to talk about Annaliese a little bit and how really she got into this scenario. I'm just doing this, I don't have any notes, I'm just doing this on the fly. So with her, she started out in Bachelor in Paradise really truly hopeful, and we saw she wasn't really making any connections with anyone. Then she got with Kenny and they seemed to have a love connection and it seemed to be going well. And then the next thing you know, he decides to leave and go home because he had, you know, his family at home to tend to, and she was pretty much left in the dust or the sand for that matter. And she was really hopeful, really expecting something. She really could see herself being engaged in the end, and then walks in Kamil. So it was like the perfect storm. She was so attached to the outcome that she wanted for herself in this scenario that I believe that she forgot about the whole process. And so even though her and Kamil were basically in the friend zone, her mind was already at the altar. So that makes it very difficult for someone to really go with the flow and invest in the situation for where it is and not where you hope it to be. And I think that was one thing that kind of tripped her up. Another thing that tripped her up is the fact that, again, it's really like a piggyback off of the first one. She couldn't accept things for where they were. She constantly was thinking about the future. And again, that probably caused her to kind of make Kamil feel like she was rushed and all her eggs were in his basket. I remember when Kamil decided to go on that date with Shu, she was all, you know, over him, you know, very affectionate and so forth. And he said, oh, we're just friends. And she was like, she couldn't realize that they were just friends. It wasn't anything more than that, anything more than that friendship. And so I feel like even though she knew they were just friends, it was one of those things where she was hoping for it to be more than friends. And that's something that eventually did happen. So when they did finally get together, it always seemed like Kamil was a few steps behind her. So the fact that she was so into him and putting all her eggs into him, he could feel that. He could feel that. And I believe that kind of was to her detriment. So she was always more invested in Kamil than he was in her. She was always, you know, bringing things forward. Do you want to go to bed? You know, let's go to bed. I saw her say that on the show at least twice. Now, they could have just been snuggling or whatever, but it's almost as if she was like offering herself to him, you know, in an effort to keep things going and build things and move things along. And I just feel like, you know, that's where it kind of went wrong too. She was overly invested and more invested than he was. And the fact that her mind was already at the altar when he had clearly said they were still friends. And then the fact that she kept, moving it forward even physically. I think it was just a combination that was just wrong, and for all the wrong reasons, and it didn't help her in the end. Another thing I do want to talk about, though, is how she can move forward. And I just feel like this is something we could all learn from by, not being, being so tied to the end that we're not moving through the process. And then also, not being present for what's happening and accepting it for what it is, rather than putting our future basically like future casting into the present moment. And then thirdly, trying to move things along so quickly, even being more invested than the man. And I think those three things caused this relationship to really falter. Now, where she can move on from here is to just stop connecting with him. You guys had that awful, dreadful conversation in the public eye on national TV, international really, and he said what he said. He decided to do it in that horrible way. Now it's time to move on. Why do you need to keep, spreading out this breakup? It's a breakup. It's let it go, leave it alone. And I think she needs to I know Annaliese and people in a situation like her need to concentrate on your own healing before you can then move on to another relationship or even consider going back with this person. And I think that when she keeps talking to him and communicating to him and keeping the lines of communication open, what is that really doing except causing more hurt and pain for you? Because you can't even get over and let those wounds heal. They're still open, and you're hoping to potentially get back together with this guy. Let's be real. You were hoping to get back together with this man, and you need to let him earn back what it is that he lost. Don't allow him to come back into your life so easily, because he took you for granted. And no woman, no one deserves to be taken for granted.